Welcome to Sargent's, Edward Sargent's Wildlife Management Area. If you drew an elk tag, or if you're just interested in wildlife management areas, we're just a place to kind of get out and enjoy nature and give you a little rundown on Sargent's. So Sargent's, or Edward Sargent's Wildlife Management Area, is right next to the town of Chama, New Mexico, and it is in Rio Arriba County, and this wildlife management area actually borders Colorado. So pretty much top of New Mexico. It's about, well, it's just over 20,000 acres, and it's right around 8,000 feet in elevation in the bottom here, and then it gets up to 8,500 or something, 8,600. So it's kind of the elevation. It's mostly pines and junipers with a lot of open meadows. To get here, what you do is you go to the town of Chama and you drive through downtown by the train station and all that, and then you turn on First Street and it looks like you're just going into a neighborhood, and then you take a right by the elementary school, and still I don't remember seeing any signs. There might be one. And then you just take that for, I don't know, half a mile till the end of the road, and you get to the trailhead. So at the trailhead, there's camping available, and there's a set of corrals, and there's some bathrooms, you know, the ones where the toilet on top, just straight on top of a septic tank, one of those, or a couple of those, and there's always people there. I think they just use it as like a free campground right next to the town, and there's always people coming late at night. I think it's kind of like the local hangout place for teenagers, if you know what I mean. And but yeah, it's pretty good facilities. If you're going to camp here, you have to camp at that place, and so it's pretty easy to get to. It's very convenient. And because it's so convenient, the town, it's a small, Chama's a small town, but because it's so close, everybody uses it kind of like their local park. And so in the mornings you'll see people walking their dogs and joggers and, you know, that kind of stuff. A lot of people use it for horseback riding. Pretty easy, accessible, and it's a pretty nice little area. This is a walk-in only area to the general public, and so all you can do, you can ride bikes, and you can ride horses, you can hike, that kind of stuff. So it's not a wilderness area, so there's not all of those restrictions, but there's a road that I'm riding on right now that goes right up the middle of it, and it goes from the trailhead all the way to the Colorado border. And I think it's a little over 7 miles, so it's not crazy far, but it's a little ways. But there's an easement on here for these ranchers, actually the ranchers in Colorado, I believe. And so there's a couple of locks on the gate, but a couple of them are combination locks, and I don't think it would be very hard to figure out the combination or to ask around and get somebody with the combination. The other thing is, game and fish because they own the land, they have the combination, and they'll spend, well, they come in often. So I wouldn't be surprised if I saw a game warden just cruising around, just enjoying the scenery, which is kind of a pet peeve of mine. And I get it, there's job perks to any job, but if I have to ride a horse or walk or ride a bike, I think they should as well. But yeah, you just saw that guy, the ranchers and stuff, and they were logging in here. You see logging trucks, big old semis driving down here. Doesn't bother me. Game and fish just cruising around because they have the combination, that bothers me. So things that you can do in this management area is that, well, there's a few things. You can ride horse. I already said you can ride horses, hike, you know, like bicycle, that kind of stuff. The most popular thing here is elk hunting, and they have about, I think there's about 10 tags per hunt, and those are for New Mexico residents only. And this is super easy hunt. This is in my opinion, this would be the easiest hunt in New Mexico. So there's 3,000 to 5,000 elk that migrate through this, right through the middle of this. There's not any, well, I haven't seen any any big bulls, but every once in a while you hear somebody killing like a 350 bull, but really you should be expecting to kill something like a 280, maybe a 300-inch bull, which, you know, that's not terrible. They're more like Colorado elk. You're not allowed to camp, so you have to stay at the trailhead. And there's fishing opportunities here. They call it, it's like New Mexico has this red or green chili deal. So for this creek right here in the bottom, that's the Rio Chamita, which means Little Chama River. I don't know what Chama means. Should probably look that up. But so I think you're allowed to keep fish out of there. It's like a little trickle. I did fish it one day, but I haven't really spent too much time. Then there's a lake up here that they stock. I'll just show you that. They call it a lake. But I think that's catch and release only, so that's like the red chili. You know, single barbless hook type deal. But yeah, it's more of just like during the summer, it's more of like a nature area. Just like nature hikes, photography. It's closed. So this is the weird thing. It's closed November 16th through Memorial Day. And for elk gestation period and stuff. The crazy thing is there's all these signs that say ski trail. So I don't know who's going to be skiing in here between, or that's not between, you know, November and May. But yeah, so I don't know how strict they are on that. There are some deer hunts and some bear hunts in here, but those aren't as popular. Bear hunts are, I don't know. I put in for it every year. I can't draw that. You just keep going up the road here. It'll take you to the border. It's not very far. I'm gonna head over here to this little lake that they got and check that out. But it pretty much looks the same everywhere. It's pretty neat. It's pretty good in person. I don't know how great it's gonna look on video, but it's pretty good elk habitat. So the way Game and Fish got this was they bought it in 1975, and I couldn't find the exact price. I know that one, I think, well, it was a family that was selling it, and somewhere I read the number 3 million, which that doesn't seem like very much, but in 1975 I guess it would have been a lot. But just a little bit of perspective, the ranch next door, so just over this hill here, is about 12,000 acres. So it's, you know, a little more than half the size of this place. And it was listed last year for sale, and they wanted 44 million for it, which is a lot. That's a lot of money. Right now it's a working game ranch, like a high fence. There's some high fence stuff, which there's not very many of those in New Mexico. Look at all of these elk beds. But yeah, and it said that it sold. I don't know who bought it. I'm sure it was some kind of corporation. But you can go buy high fence elk there. If you got 50 grand, you can buy a 400-inch elk. It'd be cool to kill 400-inch elk, but I don't know about 50 grand worth. Look at all these just elk beds everywhere. I should say that Game and Fish didn't have the money for this place when it came up for sale. So how they did it was they borrowed the money from Nature Conservancy, and I guess they kind of just like spotted them the money, because it takes a few years to come up with that money at a state agency. And so they Nature Conservancy bought it, Game and Fish paid them back, and they were using Wildlife Restoration Act money. So there's some federal dollars involved. But yeah, so they bought this place to reclaim it, and they've had it ever since. Here's the real Chamita. Now you know why I haven't spent a whole lot of time fishing here. It's not very big. There are cutthroats in here though. To come use any Game and Fish land or property, you have to either have a valid hunting or fishing license in the state, or you have to buy a GAIN permit, which stands for, I think it's gaining access into nature or something like that. And so it's their version, kind of like a backpacker tax or something like that, which I agree with. Like, if people are going to be utilizing land that is paid for with hunting license sales, then they should have to contribute a little bit. So I think it's 15 bucks, and then you have to buy a habitat stamp. But if you have a valid hunting or fishing license, you don't have to have that. This management area got its name for a pretty stereotypical reason or way. So Edward Sargent was a rancher here. He's kind of like the cattle baron of the area, but he was running sheep. So I don't know what the cattle baron version of sheep are. But he had this ranch here. So he had property, from what I can tell, in New Mexico and Colorado. And so right around here in Chama, and then also over by Chaco Canyon, where the National Monument is. So he was running sheep in all those places, and there's a lot of controversy with him. You know, typical, you know, Wild West rancher stories with, you know, problems with other ranchers, problem with the government, got problem with, you know, environmentalists, all kinds of stuff. So what he would do, from what I can tell, this was in the early 1900s, he would run his sheep over in Chaco Canyon during the winter, and then he would summer them here. And he did a lot, from what I can tell, for the development of Chama in this area. I think he had a role to play with the train station, and he built the road over to Chaco Canyon to haul his sheep over there. And he was running about 60,000 sheep, that's a lot of sheep. But there's problems whenever the Chaco Canyon became a monument in, I think it was 1907. He was still running his sheep on National Monument, and they were saying he was overgrazing and stuff. And so there's a lot of controversy back and forth, saying he was causing erosion and he was trespassing. But New Mexico's a fence-out state, and they hadn't fenced out the monument fully until 1948. So up until that point, he was just, you know, letting him run free or grazing on that property. Like I said, there's a lot of rumors of him murdering people or calling hits on people, you know, that kind of stuff. Then he died in 1958, and he donated that land at his death, I guess it was in his will or something, over in Chaco Canyon. He gave that to the Navajo reservation. And then 1975, so this was after his death, his daughter, Virginia Binkley is her name, sold this place to the New Mexico Department of Game and Fish. And it's pretty classic. Like, I don't know how many people were involved or how many people had inherited this land, but they didn't want to ranch it anymore. They just wanted to take the money and run. And so this is a classic way to keep the land intact, is to sell it to a state agency or like Nature Conservancy or someone like that. So that way it stays together and it's never going to get subdivided. So that's how we got it. And the reason why I say I don't know how many people were involved, so this guy named Tom Wolfe was writing, he wrote an article about Edward Sargent, and then his daughter Virginia replied to it saying that's all lies, because it's kind of like an environmentalist journalist for the Santa Fe New Mexican newspaper. So this was in 1991, so June and July of 91. So they were kind of going back and forth, and that's actually where I learned most of my information about Edward Sargent. But yeah, they didn't get along very well, but she said that her portion, she gave it to them for 18% less than the appraisal price, and she got $3 million. I can't tell if it was 3 or 5, like in the newspaper, because it's an old newspaper, but yeah, so not a lot. This is their version of a lake. Pretty sure this is just catch and release only. It's a bunch of geese. I would call this a tank or a pond myself, but I guess they stock it, so they call it a lake. So I figured this would be a good place to stop and have a snack. If you made it this far in the video and you're thinking about hunting here, like, do what you want, but my advice would be ride a bike. So leave your pack animals at the corral, make sure you lock it, and then ride your bike in here, because you could get in here faster. They say you're not allowed to get off the roads with your bike though. Then get up on one of these points where you can see a few of these openings. Make sure you have some good binoculars. Just wait for them to come out. Daylight and dusk. Then with your bike you can make it back to the truck real quick, because it's all downhill. Get your animals and come in. Or, you know, so there's only 10 tags per hunt. About half of the guys are going to want to go all the way to the furthest point. The other half are going to be glassing from the truck. And so if you get somewhere in the middle, or if you get up here just on one of these points, you're not going to be able to find them in the stick stuff, but as soon as they come out, so there's no sense in rushing it. Just wait for something to come out. You're not, unless you're really trophy hunting, there's no sense of scouting or anything because they're all migratory. So, just my 2 cents, if you're going to do it. Good binoculars and a good rangefinder, because it looks way different. Like you might think it's only 200 yards when really it's 600 or 800 yards. So make sure you have a rangefinder too, because it's the distance is deceiving on these big openings. Leftover beaver roast burritos for lunch. It's about 10 o'clock, so I'm going to head back to the truck. It's starting to warm up. But my thoughts on Sargent is that if you're looking for a place to go on a trail ride or a hike, it's super easy and super forgiving. So even like an inexperienced rider or you know, someone like that, it would be a good place to go for a day ride. It'd also be a really good place to hunt for an inexperienced hunter or like a youth hunter or something like that. Something that's going to be easy and fun with a pretty high success rate. So yeah, I'm just going to head back to the truck. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like this video, you'd probably like some of my other ones, like the ones about Humphreys or, you know, the wilderness hunt or wilderness areas. So check those out if you're interested. If not, have a good one. Thanks for watching. Show you a few more clips on the way out. Something I should mention is that in 2021, there was a legislative bill that wanted to take this and 2 other wildlife management areas and turn them back to the original land grant owner. So whenever Spain took over, or they, you know, yeah, took over this area in Mexico and stuff, they gave land grants to people so that way they could support their families or their village or whatever. And then they called them Mercedes. And then when Mexico declared independence, they honored all of those land grants. And then when the United States took over this area, there was the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, and we were supposed to honor them as well. But all of those, or a lot of those records kind of got lost and forgot about. And so, you know, the land was not given to those land grant holders. And so recently there's this committee of like 12 people here in New Mexico, and they're fighting for getting these land grants back. And this is part of it. Because it's a state-owned property, they think that it's going to be easy to get, which there's no real record that I'm aware of, but they're claiming it. Hasn't gone through, but I guarantee they're going to fight for it. So Game and Fish bought this to fix it, pretty much. Do erosion control, do all kinds of stuff like that, and they've got it back to a pretty good habitat, and now these people want it, and they say that they will give 40% of the tags to, you know, the state to give out to citizens, which there's not a ton of tags already, so 40% is not a lot. So it'd be like 4 tags per hunt, where right now it's 10 tags. So it seems like a pretty terrible deal. Unless you're on the receiving end of it, then it seems like a good deal. There's a coyote over there. But just thought I would mention that. Keep your eye out for legislative stuff and fight for it. Thought I'd give you a little count. So far today, I've seen one group of elk. I think there's I don't know, 4 or 5 cows in there and 2 coyotes, which isn't surprising since what time of day it is and, you know, that kind of stuff. I've also seen a handful of people, hikers and dog walkers and runners and stuff, but they're all right here in the first mile. But anyways, thanks for watching. We'll see you later.